Hello, and welcome back. So this is going to be a lore reading. We're pausing in front of the final section of the Temple of Sacred Ashes. We've just gotten done wrecking the cult and the dragon they were worshipping. So let's see what we've learned. Creatures. Dragon. Hi, dragon. Right. You know, we already did that one. Female dragons take much longer to mature than their male counterparts. They too undergo metamorphosis of sorts as adults, but males lose the use of their forepaws, females actually grow a third set of limbs specifically to serve as wings. The young females travel a great distance from their suitable nesting site because of their nomadic habits. These are the dragons most frequently encountered by man. I've heard that a lot of birds and such only go through significant they only acquire their sexual dimorphic traits when they most of the way through their maturity phase, so that could work. I'm assuming dragons are birds are descended from dinosaurs, which will be sort of reptilian, and dragons are reptilian, but in any case. Items. Life Drinker. No one knows for certain where this amulet came from. All we have is a legend. Long before the Golden City turned black, there lived in the Demeter Imperium a frail old magician in the court of the Archon. He was the least among the mages of the court, the lamplighter whose task it was to set all the thousands of candles alight and snuff them again when the Archon retired for the evening. He was counted as useless by all the most influential magisters, but he was only biding his time. One day, when all the magisters of the Imperium were assembled in the great hall, the Archon, the lamplighter, struck. He conjured a massive firestorm in the hall, trying to assassinate all who were assembled and seize power himself. The court was made up of the most powerful mages of the Imperium, and they worked quickly to destroy the would-be usurper, but found, to their astonishment, their magic was no match for the old man. Every spell they cast was countered, and the magisters began to fall one by one until only the Archon himself and the lamplighter were left. Locked in a battle of magic and will, the Archon saw that with each spell he cast, the lamplighter seemed to wither and fade a little more. So he bombarded the mage with spell after spell until at last nothing was left of the palace but rubble, nothing left of the court but corpses, and nothing left of the lamplighter but a golden pendant. This the Archon kept to remind himself of the treachery. That treachery could come from even the most innocuous sources. That doesn't sound like a entirely made-up tale to warn people not to discount others. What do we got here? The Frostback Mountains. Even the mountains had a heart once. When the world was young, Korth, the Mountain Father, kept his throne at the peak of Belinas, the mountain that lies at the center of the world, from which he could see all corners of the earth and sky. Would they use the term earth for that? Anyway. And he saw strong men become weak, brave men grow cowardly, and wise men turn foolish for love. And Korth devised a plan that he would never be betrayed by his own heart, by taking it out and hiding it where no soul would ever dare search for it. He sealed it inside a golden cask, buried it in the earth, and raised around it the fiercest mountains the world had ever seen, the Frostbacks, to guard it. But without his heart, the Mountain Father grew cruel. His chest was filled with bitter mountain winds that shrieked and howled like lost souls. Food lost its flavor, music had no sweetness, and he lost all joy in deeds of valor. He sent avalanches and earthquakes to torment the tribes of men. Gods and men rose against him, calling him a tyrant, but with no heart. Korth could not be slain. Soon there were no heroes left, either among men or gods, who would dare challenge Korth. The Lady of the Skies sent the best of her children, the swiftest, the cleverest, the strongest flyers, to scour the mountains for the missing heart. For a year and a day they searched, but sparrow and raven, vulture and eagle, swift and albatross returned to her with nothing. Then the Ptarmigan spoke up, offered to find the god chief's heart. The other birds laughed, for the Ptarmigan was a tiny bird, too humble to soar, which spent half its time hopping along the ground. The lady would not give the little creature her blessing, for the mountains were too fierce even for eagles, but the Ptarmigan set out anyway. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that word. I'm not sure I've seen it before. The little bird traveled deep into the frostbacks. When she could not fly, she crawled. She hugged the ground and weathered the worst mountain winds, and so made her lonely way to the valley where the heart beat. With all the god's terrible deeds, the heart was far too heavy for the little bird to carry, so she rolled it little by little out of the valley and down a cliff. And when the golden casks struck the earth, it shattered. The heart was full almost to bursting, and the pain of it roused the mountain god to see what had happened. When Korth neared his heart, it leapt back into his chest, and he was whole again. Then Harkon, Winter's Breath, bound Korth's chest as with 3 bands of iron and 3 bands of ice, so it could never again escape. And all the remaining gods named the Ptarmigan, honored above even the loftiest eagles. Ptarmigan, an Avartake from Ferelden Folklore and History by Sister Petrine, Chantry Scholar. Again, with the theme of not discounting the small. Alright, what do we have? The First Blight, Chapter 3. The world during the First Blight was different from the world we know today. Aside from the civilized rule of the Imperium, humans as a race were largely barbarous and splintered, divided into clans and tribes and squabbling amongst ourselves for resources. I mean, that sounds like human history for most of the time. Squabbling in various sized groups. Anyway, at the same time, deep beneath Thedas' great mountain ranges spanned a dwarven culture as organized and advanced as ours was primitive. As the Darkspawn bubbled up to the surface from their underground lairs, mankind first buckled and then fought back. The armies of Tevinter attempted to face down the multitudes of twisted creatures and the horrid rotting of the land around them, but they could not be everywhere at once. Human history remembers the First Blight as a time of terrible devastation, and those stories are accurate, but in our arrogance, we often forget the price paid by the dwarves in their isolated mountain kingdoms. The dwarves faced far greater hordes than humanity, as the Darkspawn challenged them for control of the underground. Despite the might and technology that dwarves brought to bear, the savage Darkspawn tore through them, first destroying the more remote taigs before swallowing up entire kingdoms. Think of it, entire civilization lost in the space of decades, compared to the near genocide that the dwarves faced. What we humans call the First Blight must have seemed a mere skirmish. Against the Darkspawn, the dwarven lands have always borne the brunt of the fighting and the majority of the sacrifices. 4 dwarven kingdoms finally managed to combine their might and fight back, and that cooperation saved them, but for the rest of their lands it was too late. The Darkspawn had taken the deep roads, the majestic underground passages that linked the dwarven lands throughout Thedas. The Darkspawn could now attack anywhere on the surface through these tunnels. Humanity simply was not prepared for such an onslaught. It was clear that the warfare we knew would not avail us. We had to find a new way of fighting. New way to fight. Thus was born our salvation. Thus came our salvation. The Grey Wardens were born. From Tales, The Destruction of Thedas by Brother TV, Chantry Scholar. Yeah, that's something that I thought of as the squabbling amongst themselves in small groups, a much different mode of warfare than fighting the Darkspawn. The Darkspawn, who were, they're humans for the most part. They're just kind of interested. They're interested in something else. The fighting isn't really the main thing they want. What they usually want is something else. Power, resources. Such that Darkspawn more or less just want kill everything. I don't particularly care if they survive, so be a different sort of fighting. And that's it for this one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed doing your relevant things with YouTube's buttons, and have a nice day.